I've been a financial advisor now for over 20 years. And no matter what your profession is, one of the secrets we all have is where do you get your information from? How do you stay current? How do you keep on top of the current trends, the current research? And for me, I'll let you inside of the tent. One of the services I use is completely free and it's available to everybody. It's custodian Fidelity, has great educational content. And this summer, they came up with a report that was really interesting. And the title of it is, What Will My Savings Cover in Retirement? And in essence, Fidelity is saying, essentially, plan on your savings covering about half of your pre-retirement income. So I want to walk through this with you because there's some gotchas in this report. And I don't want you to have any gotchas. I don't want you to have any surprises. It's good research. I think there's a couple things that I disagree with it, and I want to share with you a different report that I think will clear things up for you and help you plan and help you reach your goals better. Okay, so again, this article is What Will My Savings Cover in Retirement? And essentially they're saying plan for your savings to provide 45% of your pre-tax, pre-retirement income. And they have a nice chart, which we'll go over here. And they say, depending on what your income is, if you're making $50,000 a year, well, your Social Security is probably going to cover a bigger piece of your overall income because Social Security is really designed to keep a roof over your head, put food on the table, and, allow you to survive with some dignity in old age, but it certainly is not going to give you an extravagant retirement. So if you're close to the median salary, if you're below the median salary, which in the United States, the median salary, household salary, so that would be the average household has more than one adult. So the median household salary is a little under $75,000 a year. So in Fidelity's report, they're saying, okay, let's say your income is $50,000 a year. So you're at the very bottom end of the middle class. In general, middle class is 2/3 to 2 times the median household income. So 2/3 of $75,000 is $50,000. So in this chart, Fidelity is saying if your retirement income is $50,000, then about 45% of your income in retirement is going to have to come from savings because Social Security is going to be 35%. And that'll give you a total of 80% of your pre-retirement, pre-tax income. And that's a rule of thumb that a lot of people use is 80%. But stay tuned because I'm going to give you another report that's going to give us more clarity on what percent of your pre-retirement, pre-tax income you need. Okay, let's keep going with this Fidelity report. If your retirement income is $100,000, again, your retirement savings is going to cover 45%, but now your salary is higher. So Social Security, instead of representing 35% of your pre-retirement income, is only going to represent a little bit more than 25% for a total of about 70 to 75%. If your pre-retirement income's $200,000, again, from savings, is 45% of your pre-retirement income, but Social Security is only going to take 16%. So you have a little less than 2/3 of your pre-retirement, pre-tax income. And then $300,000, your savings, again, is going to represent about 45%. But Social Security becomes a smaller piece of that. Social Security is only going to be 11%. So now you're living on a little less than 60%. It's 55%. 55% of your pre-tax, pre-retirement income. Okay, and that's essentially what this next chart is showing, is what percent of your retirement income is coming from Social Security versus your savings. And what's interesting is I like to encourage people to think about, there's no right or wrong answer, but I definitely want it on your radar screen. Should you consider retiring early? And then, of course, a follow-on question is, if you do consider retiring early, when should you take Social Security? And so here Fidelity is showing a chart saying, if you take Social Security early, then Social Security is going to only, at 62, is only going to represent 17% of your pre-tax, pre-retirement income. But if you wait, every year that you wait, that increases. So you can see at 65, Social Security is going to represent 22%. Why? Because you get more each year, obviously, as you wait. 67, it's going to represent, Social Security is going to represent over 25% of your pre-retirement pre-tax income. Then if you wait to 70, it's going to increase to almost a third of your pre-retirement pre-tax income. So, an important question is, when do you take Social Security? That's outside of the scope of this video, but I do have videos on my channel. Just look up Azul Wells Social Security and you'll find them. Hopefully you'll find that as helpful. Okay, so that's the Fidelity report. And again, I don't completely agree with this replacement income. But I want to take a step back. Fidelity, again, has a wonderful library. Another article is how much do I need to retire? And I want to go right to the chart that shows they have nice milestones by age based on your income that Fidelity says this is what you should target. And if you target this, you should have a comfortable retirement. So at age 30, they're saying you should have 1 times your salary saved up in retirement savings. By 35, it's 2 times. By 40, it's 3 times. By 45, it's 4 times. By 50, it's 6 times. By 55, it's 7 times what your salary was when you started your 50s. By 60, it's 8 times. And by 67, which is full retirement age, if you're not taking Social Security yet, your full retirement age is going to be 67. And Fidelity is saying you should have 10 times what your salary was when you were 67 years old. So if you're making $100,000 a year, Fidelity would say you should have $1 million. 10 times 100,000 is $1 million. So this is what Fidelity says you need in order to have a comfortable retirement. But what's the reality in America? Every 3 years, the survey of consumer finance comes out, and that's sponsored by the Federal Reserve. And we're fortunate because the 2022 data, as I record, this just came out a few months ago. It came out in October of 2023. It's our most recent data. It'll be another 3 years, 2.5 at this point, until we get an update. But this shows what the household net worth is by age, and I want to look at the median. So half of the households are doing better, half the households are doing worse. So less than 35 years old, it's under $40,000. From 35 to 44, the median household net worth, and I should go back and say, what is net worth? Net worth is just the value of all of your assets minus your liability. So if your only asset was your home, let's say your home's worth $500,000 and you have a $300,000 mortgage on that home, then your assets, $500,000 less than $300,000 with your mortgage. So your net worth is going to be $200,000. So net worth is your value of all of your assets minus your liabilities, minus your debts. For most people, that's going to be your mortgage, that's going to be your car loan, that might be student loan debt, things like that. Okay, so 35 to 44-year-olds, a little over $135,000 net worth. For a lot of folks, this is tied up in their house, so it's not liquid. 45 to 54, it's a little under $250,000. 55 to 64, this is where most of my viewers are going to end up retiring. They have a little under $365,000. And 65 to 74 continues to increase a little less than $410,000. And then 75 plus, you can see once people hit 65, they start spending down that number. So it goes down from $410,000, which is what people 65 to 74 has, goes down from $410,000 as they continue to age and spend their money. And it goes down to $1/3 $335,600. Okay, now, I put in the title of this video, Fidelity says you're going to run out of money. Fidelity says you're never going to be able to retire. And the reason I use that title is because if you look at what Fidelity says that you should have, you're making $100,000, Fidelity says you should have $1 million saved. But you can see how far from the mark the average American is, the average American household. So there's another study that I like that I think gives some additional insight to it. And frankly, it doesn't get much press at all, but it's really an excellent study. It's done by Dimensional Funds, and it's called How Much Should I Save for Retirement? And you can see here the researchers. The researchers are Massey DeSantis and Marlena Lee. And they just did an excellent job with this report. So the replacement rates, we saw earlier that Fidelity was essentially targeting 80%. Dimensional Funds did here, which I really like, and I guess I should say the researchers, the people that did the work, what Marlena and Massey did was they looked and they said, the more money that you're making before you retire, maybe that rule of thumb of replacing 80% of your income, that's too high. If you're making $500,000 a year in retirement, are you going to replace 80% of that? And they would argue, the researchers would argue no. So at the lower end, the lower quartile of incomes. Now this report is a little bit old. You can see it summer of 2012, but the takeaway is still valid. So if you're in the lower quartile from a salary standpoint in the United States, which back then it was $26,000 for an individual, you can see they're saying you're going to need a replacement income of about 82%. And 59, almost 60% of that's going to come from Social Security, and about a fourth of that's going to come from your savings. Now, if you were in the 25th to the 50th percentile, so you're in the lower half still, and you're making a little less than $50,000 on average, you can see it's split about 50-50. Half of your retirement income is coming from Social Security, half is coming from savings. And even here, the two researchers, Marlena and Massey, would say you're not going to spend 80%, you're going to spend 72%. Okay, for people that were in the upper half, so 50 percentile to the 75th percentile, making just under $90,000, $86,882, you can see that here it is exactly 50%. 31% from Social Security, 31% from your retirement savings. And then for people that were in the upper quartile, you can see now here, I want to point out those last two categories, they average out to 60% of your pre-retirement pre-tax income. So if you're working to get 80% of your pre-retirement pre-tax income and you're making $100,000, you're making $150,000, it's going to feel like you don't have enough money to retire. And I think that's dangerous. And the cost of setting that bar too high is you may end up working many more years than you really need to. And I don't want to see that happen to you. Okay, so again, people in the upper quartile, about 40% of their income is their spending is going to come from their savings account. So now we're starting to agree with the Fidelity study, and a little over 20% is going to come from Social Security. So I do want to talk about, so what do you do if you're behind on this? The benchmark of saving 10% and you're going to be fine. I think that worked in our parents' generation. But if you're just saving 10%, I think you're gonna end up short of the type of retirement that you want. And here's why. My parents gave me the advice: save 10%, spend 90% in your current life, and you'll be fine. That worked for my parents' generation because they had three legs to their retirement stool. They had Social Security, they had their own savings, and then many, many people had defined benefit plans. They had pensions from work. But that third leg of the stool got ripped off, and very few of us have that now. So now we just have the two legs of the stool. And it's important to note that Social Security for many of us is going to be taxable. Where prior to 1984, none of our Social Security payments were taxable. And then in 84, Congress passed and President Reagan signed into law. Your Social Security can be taxed up to 50% of it. And then it's not a Republican or a Democrat thing. Then Bill Clinton in the mid-90s and the early 90s signed a law that says, there's another tranche, and that can be 85% of your Social Security can be taxed. So again, we used to have the three-legged stool. One of those legs got ripped off, and then another leg got kind of chopped in parts. So instead of a 3-legged stool, we have a stool with 1 3/4 legs. So that's why things are different now. And the sooner we start saving, the better. So that's the upshot. Again, the Fidelity report can cause people a lot of angst and say, I'm never going to be able to retire based on this. But what I want you to do, instead of reading a free online report, as well written as it is, I want you to think about working with a fee-only financial advisor, somebody that's a fiduciary to you, to help you come up with a plan so you have the confidence and you have the clarity on as to how you're doing. I don't want you continuing to work just on autopilot because more is better and you keep saving money. I want you to know what your goals are, know what you have to do to achieve that goal, and then give yourself permission once you reach that goal. Really ask yourself, do you want to keep working? Early retirement's not for everybody, but just remember at 60 years old, most of us have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy active time. And that's really what this video up here is about. 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. I'll see you in that video. Bye-bye.